In the center of Lagos, behind tall gates and private security, stood Ezine Specialist Hospital, a place where only the wealthiest came to heal. But no amount of money could buy what was lost in room 706. That's where Damilare Ajayi had been lying for a year. Once the most feared name in Nigerian business, now just a quiet man in a coma. No words, no movement, no visitors. Until Amara Eze walked in. She was young, soft-spoken, a nurse from Ajagunle who believed in prayer, clean hands, and doing her job well, even when no one was watching. When the head neurologist, Dr. Okon, called her into his office, her heart almost stopped. "Amara," he said slowly, "this isn't an easy case. Most nurses avoid it, but I think you might be different." He pointed to the thick file on his desk. She opened it. Damilare Ajayi. Even she knew that name. Everyone did. A billionaire by 33. Ruthless, cold, untouchable. And then, the crash. A late-night drive across 3rd Mainland Bridge. A luxury car spinning out of control. Skid marks. No brake reaction. The vehicle plunged off the edge. People said it was a miracle he even survived. Since then, silence. "I'll do it," she said quietly before she could talk herself out of it. That night, Amara climbed to the top floor of the hospital, a private suite guarded like a fortress. When she stepped in, she nearly gasped. This wasn't a patient room. This was a palace. Soft lights, polished wood, a faint scent of incense and fresh lavender. Machines blinked quietly in the background. And there he was, Damilare, lying, in the center of it all like a forgotten king. He looked nothing like the newspapers. Not fierce, not commanding. Just still, pale, beautiful in a haunting way. Amara hesitated, then dipped a warm cloth into the basin and walked toward him. The moment her hand touched his skin, a chill ran through her spine. She paused. It felt like he was aware, like deep in that coma something still watched, still listened. She shook it off. "Let's clean you up, sir," she whispered. "Even legends need a bath." That was the beginning. Every day, every night, she came. She washed him gently, spoke to him softly, told him stories about her day, complained about the nurses who gossiped, laughed about how Dr. Yusuf always stole her chin-chin from the break room. "You know," she murmured one morning while adjusting his sheets, "sometimes I talk just to hear myself." No answer, of course. She smiled. Or maybe, "You're listening." And maybe he was, because that week, something changed. It started with a twitch, a finger that moved, just barely. When she touched his hand, she stared. Nothing. She whispered, heart racing. Maybe I imagined it. But the next day, it happened again. She was lifting his arm when she felt it. A light pressure around her wrist. His fingers, slow and shaky, curled. Her breath caught. "Damilare?" Silence. But her heart knew. She ran to Dr. Okon. "He moved," she said. "It's real." The doctor raised a brow. Could be a reflex. "It's not," Amara said. "I felt it." Dr. Okon sighed. "We'll run tests, but don't raise your hopes." But she already had. The scans came back a week later. Increased brain activity, stronger neurological signals. Things were shifting. "Do you know what this means?" she asked, standing beside his bed later that night. He didn't answer. But she didn't need him to, because just before she dipped her cloth again, his hand moved, firm this time. He gripped her wrist. Her eyes flew wide. "Damilare," she breathed. And then he opened his eyes. Damilaire's eyes opened like a door creaking after years of silence. Amara didn't move, couldn't move. She had spent months sitting beside this man, talking, washing, hoping. But nothing could prepare her for the moment his eyes met hers. He blinked slowly, confused, raw. His lips parted, his voice barely there. "Where am I?" Her knees almost gave out. He had spoken. He was back. The basin slipped from her hand, water splashing across the floor. Amara spun and slammed the red emergency button. The alarm rang out like a bell of war. Seconds later, the door flew open. Nurses, doctors, Dr. Ocon. Everyone rushed in. "What happened?" the doctor shouted. "He moved," Amara stammered. "He spoke. He grabbed my hand." Dr. Ocon leaned over the bed, checking vitals, pupils, response. It was all real. He turned, eyes wide. "Get the neurological team. Now!" But in the middle of the chaos, Damilaire's eyes found hers again. He didn't look away. Machines beeped. Lights flashed. Questions were thrown at him. "Do you know your name? Can you hear us? Do you know what year it is?" But no matter who asked, he kept glancing back to her, like she was his anchor. Amara stepped closer, barely breathing. "Damilaire," she whispered. "Do you remember anything?" He stared at her, eyes heavy with confusion. Silence stretched between them. Then, slowly, his fingers moved again. He reached for her hand, weak but sure. His grip closed, around hers like he had done it 100 times before. Dr. Ocon noticed. "Damilaire, do you know who this is?" He didn't answer immediately, but his gaze didn't waver. "I don't know," he murmured. "But I feel like I should." A chill ran through Amara's body. He couldn't remember her, but his spirit did. The next few days moved fast. Physiotherapy, speech assessments, emotional check-ins. The city's media buzzed with whispers. Damilare Ajayi is awake. The sleeping billionaire has returned. But he wasn't the same man they remembered. He was quieter now, slower. But inside him, a storm was growing. He couldn't remember the crash, no details, just flashes. And the more the doctors asked, the more restless he became. Dr. Ocon sat with him one afternoon. "Let's try again," he said gently. "What's the last thing you remember before waking up?" Damilaire rubbed his temples, frustration written across his face. I don't know. Just flashes, pieces that don't fit." "Tell me." He took a deep breath, closing his eyes. "I remember a feeling," he said slowly. "Like something was wrong. Like I wasn't supposed to be there." Amara sat in the corner, still and quiet. Damilaire's fingers twitched. "I saw headlights," he whispered. "Bright, then black." Dr. Ocon sighed. "It's normal. Sometimes trauma blocks memory. It might return, or it might not." But Amara, she had a feeling. That night, long after the halls had quieted, she went back to his file. She had seen it before, but this time she read it with sharp eyes. Brake failure. But not wear and tear, not a malfunction, deliberate tampering. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just a car crash. Someone wanted him gone. And if they tried once, they could try again. She closed the file slowly. He needed to know. Damilaire's recovery was nothing short of a miracle. Within weeks of waking up, the man who once lay frozen in a hospital bed was now sitting up eating on his own and stringing together full sentences. But the road wasn't easy. His legs were stiff. His muscles had forgotten how to move. The therapists pushed him hard, but it was Amara who pulled him through. Every stumble, every groan, every time he turned away in frustration, she was right there, steady as stone. "I can't do this," he muttered one morning, gripping the cold metal of the parallel bars, sweat running down his temple. "Yes, you can," Amara said calmly, standing beside him. "You've come this far, Damilare. Don't stop now." He turned to her, breathing heavy. Her eyes weren't just saying words. They believed them. And somehow, that made him believe too. With a long exhale, he took another step. Amara's face lit up. "That's it!" And then it happened. He smiled. Not a fake smile for doctors, not a polite smile for cameras, but a real one. A smile that said, "I'm alive. I'm back. And I know who helped me get here." She didn't see him as a broken billionaire. She didn't worship his wealth. She saw him as Damilare. And that's why he found himself drawn to her. One evening after a long therapy session, she surprised him. "Come," she said. "Let's take a walk. Fresh air will help you sleep better." He agreed. What he didn't expect was how free the world would feel beyond the hospital walls. The cool night air kissed his skin. The breeze rustled the trees lining the private hospital garden. The moon hung low, soft and gold. For the first time in months, he didn't feel like a patient. He felt like himself again. And beside him, Amara, holding his arm, walking slow, supporting. At first, he thought it was just part of her duty. But then he noticed how her fingers didn't pull away quickly, how she glanced at him when she thought he wasn't looking, how her breath caught when he stepped too close. She felt it too. They stopped near a small stone bench. The moonlight painted silver lines across her face. He turned to her. "Amara," he began. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, he reached for her hand, gently, intentionally. Her lips parted in surprise. Her eyes searched his face. "I don't remember anything about my old life," he said quietly. "But I know this." She waited, heart thudding. "I trust you." Her breath caught, and she didn't let go. But peace never stays long. That night, sleep didn't come easy. Damilare tossed and turned, mind racing. Then, like a flash of lightning, a memory exploded in his head. The road was dark. The rain was loud. The windshield blurred. His hands were on the wheel, tight. His mind clouded from a meeting that had ended too harsh, too bitter. Something felt off. Then, headlights. Bright. Blinding. A black SUV swerved into his lane, too fast. He turned the wheel. The tires slipped. The brakes didn't work. His pulse slammed through his chest. Just before the crash, he saw something, a man, a figure, standing on the side of the road, watching, not running, not calling for help, just watching. And then, black. Damilare shot up in bed, gasping, sweating. The memory was vivid, too vivid. This wasn't just a crash. It was a plan. The next morning, Amara noticed it instantly. His face was tense, his hands clenched. "Damilare," she asked, stepping into the room. "What's wrong?" He looked at her with eyes filled with fire. "I remembered something." She froze. "The crash?" He nodded. "It wasn't an accident, Amara." Her heart dropped. The brakes. Someone tampered with them, and I saw him, a man, just standing there, watching me crash. A chill ran through her bones. Everything she feared was real, but one question burned louder than the rest. Who did this? And why? For 2 days, Damilar said almost nothing. He sat in silence, staring out the hospital window, watching the cars below, watching the people move. But in his mind, he saw only one thing: the memory, the dark road, the SUV, the man watching from the shadows, not running, not shocked, just standing there. It haunted him. Amara stayed close. She didn't push him to speak. She just stayed, brought his tea, adjusted his chair, let him know he wasn't alone. But then one night, Damilar turned to her and said, "I need to know who did this to me." Her throat tightened. "Then let's find out." They started with his accident file. Amara went back through the old records, this time with a different eye, a sharper one. And there it was, hidden in the paperwork, like a secret waiting to be found. Brake failure, not natural, not age, not wear. Tampered. Her breath caught. She showed Damilar. They both sat, in silence, staring at the word. The truth felt heavier than any bandage. Who would do this? Amara asked softly. He didn't speak, but she saw something dark flicker behind his eyes. A thought he didn't want to say out loud. They kept digging. Emails, company records, personal messages, board meeting notes. And then they found it. A money transfer. Large, suspicious, clean on the outside, dirty underneath. Sent just days before the accident to a man named Felix Adepoju, a criminal. A name attached to staged accidents, fraudulent schemes, and government bribes. The sender, Nosa Ajayi, Damilar's half-brother. The silence in the room became unbearable. His hands gripped the chair. His jaw tightened. "It was him," he said, voice low. Amara stared, her chest tight. "Are you sure?" He nodded slowly. Nosa had always been jealous, always bitter, always hidden in Damilar's shadow. When their father passed, it was Damilar who got the company, the name, the legacy. Nosa had gotten silence, until now. "Damilar," Amara whispered. "He tried to kill you." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And now, I'm going to make sure he answers for it." They planned everything carefully. No anger, no explosions, just calm, smart revenge. A call was placed, a meeting arranged, one Nosa couldn't resist. They told him Damilar was recovering and wanted to see him, one-on-one. No doctors, no guards, just family. The trap was set, that night inside the family mansion in Ikoyi, the same place where Damilar had once grown up. The air was thick with old money and old lies. Nosa sat in the dark study, swirling his drink. He didn't look surprised when Damilar walked in. Well, he said, smirking. "The ghost rises." Damilar didn't smile. "Why did you do it, Nosa?" Nosa laughed, cold, smooth, like he'd rehearsed it. "Why?" he said, standing up. "You really have to ask?" Amara stepped forward from behind Damilare. "You tried to kill your own brother? For what? For a seat at the table?" Nosa's face twisted. "For everything that should have been mine," he snapped. "You were always the chosen one, the golden boy. I was nothing but the leftover." "You tried to murder me," Damilar said, stepping closer. "You hired a criminal to end my life." Nosa raised his glass. Guess it didn't work. Shame. Amara clenched her fists. "You don't even regret it, do you?" Nosa smirked. "No. I regret not finishing the job." And right then, the doors burst open. 2 officers in plainclothes stepped inside. "Nosa Ajayi," one of them said, flashing a badge. You're under arrest for attempted murder." Nosa's face drained of color. He spun around to Billionaire. "You set me up." Billionaire tilted his head. "Calm. No, brother. You did this to yourself." Nosa shouted, fought, cursed. But the cuffs clicked anyway. And as they dragged him out of the mansion, kicking and screaming, a strange silence returned. This time it wasn't pain. It was peace. Justice had come. And the shadow hanging over Billionaire's life was finally gone. The Carter estate, once cold and quiet, now felt warm. The shadows had lifted. The lies were buried. Justice had been served. But one thing still lingered between Billionaire and Amara. The unsaid. She was still his nurse, his friend, his miracle. But neither had spoken the full truth of what they felt, until one night, everything changed. Amara walked into the dining room and froze. The table was set with soft candlelight, 2 plates, rose petals, wine chilled in a silver bucket. The skyline of Lagos glittered behind the glass. Her heart skipped. "Billionaire, what is this?" she asked, turning. He stood behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes soft but steady. "Dinner," he said. "Just us." Her chest tightened. So much had happened. Recovery, betrayal, justice. But now that it was quiet, this moment felt even scarier. They sat. She noticed how he watched her. Not like a man trying to impress, but like someone grateful, someone humbled. "You're quiet," she said, trying to tease. "That's rare." He smiled faintly, turning his wine glass in his hand. "I've been thinking." She raised a brow. Dangerous. But this time he didn't laugh. He looked her dead in the eyes. "Do you know how many people walked away when I was in that coma?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. She'd seen it. His family, his friends, all of them. Gone. "But you didn't," he whispered. "You came. Every day. When I couldn't speak, move, or even blink, you still stayed." Her throat burned. She never thought of it as sacrifice, but to him, it meant everything. "You didn't just keep me alive," he said. "You gave me a reason to live." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. "I have everything, Amara. Money, power, but none of it mattered until you." She smiled, eyes wet. "I love you," he whispered. And in that moment, everything changed. Weeks later, Billionaire was strong again. This time, he walked into a boardroom with Amara beside him. On a golden evening, he led her to the rooftop. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Not as beautiful as you," he said, then dropped to one knee. "Will you marry me?" She gasped, then breathed, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The wedding was a dream. Amara stood in her ivory gown, walking towards Billionaire at the altar. Their vows weren't just words, they were truth. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," cheers roared, but Amara only heard his heart. Later they walked away from the noise. "No more pain," she whispered. "No more hospitals." He said, "I used to want a peaceful life," she said. "Now I want this life. With you." He looked into her soul. "You are the greatest thing that ever happened to me." And under the night sky, their story began. Love isn't about timing or gifts. It's about choosing someone, even when staying is hardest. When Billionaire lost everything, Amara stayed. And love, not money, saved him. What would you do if the one person who saved your life became your whole world? Do you believe love can truly heal what money never could? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more soul-stirring African tales.